Hello and welcome back to the Palancar podcast. We are diving into Christopher Paolini's inheritance cycle, starting with Eragon. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the second part of the third chapter, Dragon Tales. I wanted to do a second part to this chapter mainly because of Brom's story and the lore that comes along with it. I kind of wanted to focus a little bit more on that aspect of this chapter and just bring it to you in a different kind of way. So these are a little bit of my own words mixed with the actual story that Brom tells in the chapter. I'm just going to kind of go a little bit more into detail about what happens and a little bit more of the backstory as well as what happens with the riders when they do become bonded with the dragon. The riders were an ancient order who shared a bond with the dragons, which was so deep that the riders who were bonded with the dragon would gain the strength of 10 men, obtain access to tremendous amounts of magic, and would live forever, if not claimed by poison or blade. To protect and serve was their purpose, and for thousands of years they succeeded. The elves were allied with the humans, and the dwarves were their friends. At the height of the riders' power, a boy named Galbatorix was born in the province of Islandbeth. When the boy was 10, he was tested, as was the custom, where it was found that the boy possessed much power, and was handed over to the riders who took him in for training. Through the years and through the riders' training he passed. Gifted with a strong body and quick mind, he took his place amongst the riders' ranks. Questions sprouted about his quick rise, but the riders were at their strongest, and they were blinded by what could come of such an ambitious and power-hungry man who gained the knowledge of the dragons and magic that should not be explored. When Galbatorix's training was fully completed, he, along with two of his friends, left on a foolish venture. They traveled deep into the Urgle's mountains territory. They wished to test themselves, thinking that their powers would protect them. It was there that Galbatorix and his companions were ambushed while they slept. The fighting was brutal, and his two companions, as well as their dragons, fell. While Galbatorix was grievously wounded, and an arrow pierced his dragon's heart. Mad with grief, he slew the remaining Urgles. But without the strength or the power to save his dragon, she died in his arms. There the seeds of madness were planted deep in his mind. For when a dragon and a rider are separated from one another, it is as if part of one of the other is dead. Wounded, deranged, Wounded and deranged from the loss of his dragon, he began to wander in the desolate mountains, throwing himself at the largest and most dangerous creatures he encountered, wishing death to take him. Thus he traveled, taking months to traverse by foot once he easily was able to cover on dragonback. When he finally reached the end of the brutal mountain range, he was close to death. A farmer found him collapsed in the mud. Recognizing him as belonging to the dragon riders, the farmer sent word to them. Galbatorix remained unconscious for 4 days, and during that time he was transported back to the riders' holdings. When he finally woke, he didn't show signs of the madness that was brewing inside of him. It wasn't until he went before the Council of Elders and demanded that they give him another dragon egg that the council started to see what he was becoming. Denied another egg, Galbatorix brooded night after night, eventually convincing himself that it was the rider's fault that his dragon had died. He found a sympathetic rider who he corrupted with his insidious words. By persistent reasoning and with the use of dark magic, he turned the rider against the elders. Together, they lured one of the elders into a trap and killed him. As soon as the deed was done, Galbatorix turned on his ally and slew him. The other elders found him then, blood dripping from his sword. With a horrible shriek, he fled from the scene, disappearing into the night. Though he was mad, he was still cunning, and evaded the searches of the riders. Years passed, and through some ill misfortune, he was united with a young rider by the name of Morzan, who was strong of body but weak of mind. Galbatorix convinced Morzan to leave a gate unlocked to the city Illyria. Through this gate, Galbatorix entered the city and stole another dragon egg. Once the egg was in their possession, Galbatorix and his new disciple hid in an ancient place where the riders dared not travel. There, Morzan fully entered into a dark apprenticeship under Galbatorix, learning secrets and forbidden magic. When Morzan's instructions were finished and Galbatorix's new dragon Shrukin fully grown, they revealed themselves to the world. Together, they fought any rider they met, and every rider they slew, with every rider they slew, their power grew. As word spread, others of the riders heard of Galbatorix and Morzan's rise to power, and sought to join them. 12 riders joined Galbatorix along with Morzan. The 12 became the 13 Forsworn. Bolstered by the combined strength of Morzan and the Forsworn, Galbatorix began an onslaught of the riders. Unprepared, the riders began to fall. The elves fought against them, but were overthrown and forced to retreat to their ancient cities. Only Vrail, the leader of the riders, could resist Galbatorix. Ancient and wise, he struggled to save what he could of the Order, but eventually he was tracked down by Galbatorix. At the gates of Dorureba, they fought. Vrail had the upper hand and could have struck the final blow, but he hesitated, and with that, Galbatorix smote him in the side with his sword. Grievously wounded, Vrail fled to Utgard Mountain, where he hoped to gather his strength. It was not to be, though. Galbatorix found him there, and as they fought, Galbatorix kicked Vrail in the fork of his legs, and with that underhanded blow, he was able to remove Vrail's head. As Vrail lay dead before him, there was no one left who was able to challenge Galbatorix, and he anointed himself king over all of Alagasia.